And here we've opened the dura. We see 8, 7, and rootlets of intermedius. Sometimes the ICA can loop all the way to the fundus. And here we're looking in from the back, and this is Bill's bar, superior vestibular, the inferior vestibular, cochlear, facial, and intermedius. So now, if you drill lateral to the porus of the meatus, you can, if the pathology goes into the vestibule or the canals and hearing is lost, you can drill all the way lateral into the vestibule. And what is this? What is that prominence? Arcuate. And what canal is that? Superior. And this is the canal of the posterior fossa, the posterior canal, the canal of the middle fossa. What did I drill into here? Common crus, the junction of the back end of the superior canal and the up end of the posterior canal. And you can drill into it then, common crus, or you can get into the endolymphatic sac. Here we see the hiatus, and it sets in the dura on the back of the meatus. Someone or a lot of you are going to get a piece of rubber dam into the endolymphatic sac. Sigmoid comes down, and then what turns up under the labyrinth in the infralabyrinthine position? The jugular bulb sets here. So that here we see the hiatus of the endolymphatic sac. It sets in the dura here in the hook of the sigmoid. When you expose, if you're wanting to avoid it, well, you can feel the endolymphatic sac. In this area, the dura, if you feel through the dura is going to get a little softer. And then this area under the labyrinth, if you drill this out, you see the jugular bulb here in the infralabyrinthine position. So that we've exposed the jugular bulb here. It can even extend into the posterior lip of the meatus. And this is A, the vestibular nerves. What nerve? Cochlear, facial, and the canals are here, and below the fundus of the meatus, the vestibule opens into the cochlea that sets here adjacent this lateral bend of the petrous carotid. And it sets in that cochlear angle. So here we've drilled out the labyrinth, and the vestibule opens below the fundus into the cochlea, and this is going to be facial, Bill's bar, superior vestibular, the inferior vestibular, and this is the singular branch of the inferior vestibular that innervates the ampulla of the posterior canal. And what canals does the superior innervate? The superior and lateral canal ampulla, and this is the oval window in which the stapes sets. So you're looking at the fundus of the right meatus, Bill's bar, transverse crest, facial, superior vestibular, inferior vestibular, and cochlear, singular foramen, for the branch of the inferior vestibular that goes to the posterior canal ampulla. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about fourth ventricle, and what subdivision of vermis is this? Uvula. It's like ENT when you say ah, the uvula hangs down between the tonsils. And in the past, when we went to fourth ventricle, we split the vermis, but that can cause a mutism syndrome, especially in children and young people. And we found if we retract the tonsil, you see the inferior half of the fourth is made up of the inferior medullary velum that sweeps from the nodule to the flocculus, and the tela choroidea, in which the choroid plexus arises. And here we've opened the tela that forms the lower half of the roof of the fourth, and that gives a view all the way up to the aqueduct. Here's the paper-thin velum that sweeps lateral to attach to the flocculus, so that if we have a lesion in the fourth, we don't split the vermis. We go here adjacent to uvula, you retract the tonsils, and you see the tela and the velum. And you can get in off to one side of the uvula. Here we see tela and velum. And you open the tela, you have a view all the way up to the aqueduct. If you need access to the superolateral recess, or the part of the peduncular mass made up of the superior and inferior peduncle, you can divide the velum, and that gives access to the superolateral recess. And then if the pathology extends out the lateral recess is roofed by velum and tela, and all you have to do to open the lateral recess is elevate the tonsil, open the tela from Legendre to Luschka, and you have access to all of the lateral recess. Here's Luschka behind 9, adjacent to flocculus. So for pathology in the fourth, we use telovelar approach. It's become common in pediatric neurosurgery for fourth ventricular tumors. The only time I split a vermis today is if the tumor is in the vermis. And here we see the floor of the fourth, the median sulcus, and then here is that hypoglossal or vagal triangle? Hypoglossal, and then below vagal, and then below area postrema that gives this area a pen nib appearance and lead to it being called the calamus scriptorius. So here we've opened the tela. Does anyone know what this is? That's dorsocochlear nucleus. They actually put the brainstem implant in the lateral recess. Just below this is ventrocochlear nucleus, and I think they try to set it right on the junction of the two. Some people do it from lateral through Luschka. Yeah. If the brainstem is real distorted with a tumor, I know some people come back down here and go lift up the tonsil and open the lateral recess and stick it in from below if the brainstem is real distorted. Here we just see a view of all of this area. This is the uvula, the nodule of the vermis. Here's the inferior medullary velum that sweeps laterally and caps the tonsil, but often these trunks of the pica run between the velum and the cranial pole of the tonsil. And anytime you're dealing with cranial pole of the tonsil, you want to stay out of the dentate nucleus that wraps around that cranial pole of the tonsil just above the inferior medullary velum. And then the veins that you want to watch for down at 9, 10, 11 are these inferior petrosal veins, and they're often mixed in with these nerves. And whenever I elevate a cerebellum, I look for these, because if you stretch them and tear them and you get a clot around 9 and 10, and you're putting in cottonoids and bipolar, it's easy to damage these nerves. So if I see these veins and I'm going to stretch them, then I usually protect the nerves and just bipolar it and get it out of the way. And thank you.